How's it going, guys? So today I want to go over the best cards to grade for profit. Now, there's multiple cards in this section. I kind of split it up on kind of the cheaper cards that you can buy for a decent profit, and then towards the end we'll talk about the ones where you're spending, $200 to $400 on a card trying to get a lot more profit. So I want to go over the cheaper options first because these are a great entryway for someone just starting to do this when they want to grade cards and get profit from it. So the first one we'll talk about is Skarmory. So this one you can buy for $15 near mint on eBay or TCG Player, and you can grade it. For a PSA 10, you'd get around $175 to $200. The price kind of fluctuates a little bit. There's one for $250. The lowest was $150, but also there's other prices for around $215. So this one kind of fluctuates a little bit depending on the auction or if you're doing best offer. But a really cheap entry where you can buy these for $15 a piece, send them into PSA, and potentially get $200 sales price. The next one we have Routes from Pokemon Scarlet and Violet base set. This one is really great because it only costs around $20 to $30 depending on the auction if you're buying through there or just best offer. And the profit is really great. We're looking at almost $275 for one of the most recent auctions. $250, there's a best offer from $312, so probably around like $250, $265, $255, $275. Like, this card is really great. Like, it is not that expensive, and the potential increase in price from PSA 10 is really good. One thing to mention, the reason why I started with the cheaper cards first, is I highly recommend buying these first if you're kind of new to grading, because it's going to let you see like what you got wrong. You're not going to always get PSA 10s, and so when you're buying these off like eBay or TCG Player, I recommend eBay because you can actually see photos. That's how I buy them. But when you buy them, you can get them, and if you send them in and they get a PSA 9, you're not going to lose that much money because they're buying them for $20, and if they get a PSA 9, you can sell it for like $30. So naturally, you do lose money because of the grading fees, but it's kind of like a lesson. It teaches you what you got wrong. You can check it out and see, oh, I missed that ding there, or I didn't see that the centering was off a little bit, and that's why I didn't get the PSA 10. Because if you jump into some of the cards later on in the video that are really expensive, you're going to lose a lot of money really fast. If you're spending $400 on a card, you get it back, it's a PSA 9, and you make like $350 off selling it, you're going to lose money. So it's not worth doing that way. If you're a newer grader, highly recommend buying these cheaper cards that are $20 to $30 a piece, or even like $15 a piece like the Skarmory, and then seeing what you're getting wrong if you're getting PSA 9s or even like PSA 8s. The next card that I recommend, and kind of like from Searching Sparks like Skarmory, is Ceruledge. Now this one has been going up a lot. Now, it was at the peak of around 300. It has went down a little bit, but it's still selling for a really great profit in a PSA 10. You can get raw for around $30 to $40 on eBay. Upwards to $40 to $50 if you're like getting like a really near minty copy. And like an auction, I've seen them go up to there just because they're looking like guaranteed almost 10s, which, nothing's guaranteed, but if you see an auction and the card is really, really good looking, it can go up to around that price. But entry around like $30 for this card. It has risen up because I remember a couple weeks ago it was around like $20, so it has risen in the raw copy price, but still a really great entry point to buy this card for cheap, grade it, and then get the PSA 10 for a really solid profit around $250. Sales price $260. So pretty decent for this card. The last card I have on the list for kind of the lower entry cards is Drowsy from Scarlet and Violet. This is an illustration rare. This card is one of my favorites because it's been slowly climbing in price, and you saw recently there's a price of $380 it sold for an auction. So this was really great right here. There's another auction for $295, $419. Like, this card is rising in price. This one was a little bit lower, but you can see that there was a $36 shipping fee, so that's probably why it was like actually $200 or something. From Germany, $395. So this card has been steady rising in price, and you can get a raw copy for around $25, upwards to like $35. So really low entry point and a really big potential to make big gains on this card, and I feel like it's just going to keep going up. This card is really underrated. The artwork is like insane. Like, check this out. Like, this card is insane. Really, really cool card. So this one I feel like is probably one of the best ones on my list. I bought a few of these. I haven't sent them in for grading yet, but I do plan to, as I feel like this year is going to be a really great year for Pokemon. I just see this card definitely rising in price even more. So highly recommend Drowsy for sure. One thing to mention, if you are planning to take this seriously and you're really going to grade a bunch of cards and try to sell them and make a good profit and kind of make this kind of either like a side hobby, maybe not like a business, but make some good profit off this, I do recommend getting the PSA membership. Noted, I'm not sponsored by PSA at all. This is just something I do recommend, mainly because it's a really great price point where if you have the Collectors Club membership, you can send grades cards in for $15 a piece instead of the regular $25 a piece. So when you're sending in these lower tier cards that I mentioned, where they're $20 to $30 a piece raw and they're like $250 when you sell them in a 10, you want to grade them in the lowest, cheapest fee you can, because if you're spending them, $25 a card, it does add up pretty quickly, where 15 is way more manageable. Even if you get like a PSA 9, it's not that bad of a loss. It is $150 a year, so it is a little pricey up front, but this is once per year $150 fee, and if you're cranking out a lot of cards, you can make that back in one PSA 10. So it's not really that crazy. I do recommend doing it if you're planning to like send in a bunch of cards. But again, I'm not a sponsor of PSA at all. If anything, I feel like they kind of hate me. They give me a lot of bad grades before. So, all jokes aside, I really do recommend doing this if you are going to take this seriously. Okay, now we're going to be getting into the big boys. These are the cards that are potentially a lot of profit, are going to sell for a lot of money, but you have to put a lot more money up front. So I only recommend these when you kind of graded a decent amount of cards and you kind of understand what to look for when you're buying these raw copies off eBay. Highly recommend, again, eBay, not TCG Player. You don't want to buy stuff and you can't see the card. It doesn't make sense at all, especially for really expensive cards like these. So the Giratina has been steady going up the past couple months like crazy. I remember back in like November, I think it was like $600, and now it's $1,300 selling all day long. This is a Japanese copy, so don't mind that one. And this is a Chinese one, but it's been selling all day long for $1,300, $1,400, even $1,500. This card is insane. So this one, if you buy it raw, you can get it for around $490 to $500-ish. Like $510, $520. I've seen copies going for on eBay, depending on the auction. So you can get in for a decent entry point, and if you get a PSA 10, you're easily doubling your money. Like it's really good profit. One thing to mention, if you're buying these cards, I do recommend sending them at a higher tier rate than like the $15 bulk. The one I recommend is the Value Plus for $40. Now you might be like, well, Jark, why would you buy this one when they say their max value is $500 and the Giratina is selling for over $1,300? The reason why is because you want PSA to give you the upcharge. So what happens is PSA, if they grade a card like a PSA 10 and you sent in the Value Plus and it's worth like $1,000 and their max value is $500, they will give you an upcharge. They will charge you more for the service, which is kind of annoying. Honestly, it's kind of ridiculous, but it's just something they do. My point is, you don't want to send it in like at the express tier and you're like, ooh, 5 business days, $129, and then you get a PSA 9, and then you just lost a ton of money. You want PSA to give you the PSA 10 when you sent it in for $40, and then they upcharge you, and then it's like, okay, you can give me the bigger fee. I already made a ton of profit because it's a PSA 10. You don't want to just give them money like this, because if you get a 9, you're just burning money. It's not good. You want to send in a lower tier, maybe $75 if you want, but with insurance and all that, shipping, it does add up a lot. I recommend the $40 tier. And if you get the PSA 10, cool, they upcharge you, whatever. If you don't get the PSA 10, you're not spending $130 on grading fees, which is ridiculous. The next one we got is Gengar VMAX, and you guys will see a trend. All the Sword and Shield era alt arts have been going insane. Their prices are rising like insanity. So this is a great time to actually get in, buy them, grade them, and sell them. Work with the market. If they're selling like crazy for insane prices, you want to sell into the market. Like this is a good idea. So the Gengar VMAX is going for around $1,400, $1,395. You see all the prices right here. Just a really strong price to get into. And so the raw copies, and I guess I should show this for the other cards. I'll do that next time in other videos when I show my references. Raw copies are selling for around like $550, $700, depending on the auction, maybe $600 if it's like near mint, if they're claiming. This one obviously is not near mint at all, $530. So at least $500 you're going to be spending to get a raw copy, maybe around $600 for like a really good one, like a really minty card. And then to grade it, again, that $40 tier, maybe $75 if you want to expedite it a little bit more, and then you can get a PSA 10, grade it, sell for around $1,400. So keep in mind, with all these that you're selling on eBay, you're going to get a fee of around 13%, 13.25%, and then taxes depending on what state you live in. So you're not going to be getting strictly $1,400. It's going to be a little bit less. But still, like it's a lot of room for profit, even with the taxes from eBay and everything. Next up, we have the Pikachu EX Illustration Rare. This one has been going crazy in the hobby. It has dropped a good amount. I remember when it first came out, it was selling for over $2,000, but still selling for a pretty great price. And honestly, you can grade it and still make good profit. I even did this myself. So right now the sales, this one looks a little fishy. 1,500 is pretty high. The sales I've been seeing is like 1,200 or less in a PSA 10, like 1,100, 1,150. But maybe they've gone up just a little bit. I don't know. But this is a little high for the price has been for the past couple weeks. But either way, let's just say around 1,200. Raw price is around like 400, 450. Depending on the auction, 460. I even graded one myself in a PSA 10. This one sold for 1,100 on PSA's website. I actually tried selling on their auctions, and the fee wasn't too bad. I paid $110 in fees from their auction, and it sold for a pretty good amount, so I made around $990. But there's definitely room to make more money, and honestly, if I was a little bit quicker with selling this card, I probably could have sold it for more when it was at a higher price. That was my fault. But just showing examples, like this is not insanely hard to do. If you know how to grade cards, if you know what to look for when you're buying off eBay, you can definitely get PSA 10s pretty, at a pretty good rate. Again, not perfect. I grade PSA 9s and lost money too. But my rate of PSA 10s is more than my PSA 9s, and that's what really matters when you're doing this. Last up, we have the Magic card from Paldea Evolved. This one I put at the very end because this one is more like a wild card, and you might be wondering why, because the profit is insane. Like you can buy these for $200 to $250 raw all day long on eBay. I just bought one for $230 raw. I'm gonna grade it myself and see what happens. But PSA 10, the card has blown up like crazy, selling for over $1,100. Insane in price. Like this one just recently $1,200. You'll see back in September it sold for $600, so it's doubled in price in only a couple months, which is pretty wild. This one sold for like $260 raw, so you'll see it's in a pretty decent price point, and if you get that PSA 10, the profit is huge on this card. The reason why I put it on kind of like more like a wild card and at the end is because it's very hard to get this card in a PSA 10. It does not grade well. I don't know what they did with Paldea Evolved, but when they released that set, the quality control was garbage. There are so many rough cards with like deans on the corners, whitenings, centering not that great. It's hard to grade Paldea Evolved cards. I don't know what happened with that set, but this card is difficult to get in a PSA 10. To give you like a reference, look how many 9s this card gets. 4,355 PSA 9 examples, only 1,700 PSA 10s out of 7,854 cards graded. This card is difficult to get in a PSA 10. And so I only recommend this for people who are actually like really good at grading, really experienced, and know what they're doing. Because if you try to buy like 5 of these and you're thinking like I'm going to profit like, I'm going to sell each one for $1,200, you're going to lose a lot of money because the PSA 9s don't sell for that great. They're like $200. Like you're not even going to break even with all the eBay fees and everything like that. So unless you are really, really good at grading, like you know what you're doing, I don't recommend grading this card because the profit is insane, yes, and I'm throwing some shots at it, just trying my best, but I've graded 4 of them and I've only got one PSA 10. The rest got 9s. Like it's not easy to get PSA 10s on this card, so just really stressing that. But again, if you're really good at grading, or if, I don't know, you're really lucky with the PSA graders, the profit is crazy on this card for sure. Anyways, that is the video. If you guys have any questions or concerns, let me know in the comments below. Be happy to help. This is my secondary channel. I do have a main channel, which is more like gaming focused, like, World of Warcraft, Blade and Soul, stuff like that, like MMORPG. So if you like those type of video games, maybe you like my main channel. But I'm starting this channel because I really do love collecting. I love buying and selling cards. It's a really big passion of mine. But I really wanted to start this channel because I love buying and collecting. I've been doing it for a few years now. I've had over 500 sales on eBay, which I'm pretty proud of. So just a real big fan of Pokemon, and also even Yu-Gi-Oh! Really big fan of Yu-Gi-Oh! But really want to make more videos, so hopefully you guys enjoy this type of content. As you can see in like the Scarlet and Violet era, there is a lot of low entry cards that you can grade PSA 10, get a quick, easy $200. So something to really keep your eye on. Next video I'll probably do is cards that I feel like that are going to blow up. Basically cards, I've seen a lot of cards in the market that have gone from like $200 to like $600 over the past couple months, or even higher. These are some cards that I've noticed that are still kind of cheap, and I feel like they're on their way to blowing up. So again, just my opinion, that'll be probably the next video, but hopefully you guys will like that too. Yeah, if you guys have any questions, let me know below. But there's a lot of money being made in the market right now, so very exciting times. Thank you guys for watching. See you guys next one real soon.